Hello, I'm Marianne Richards. This video is addressed to all my former colleagues who worked at the Victoria Hospital, Swindon from 2004. No doubt there'll be other people watching this too. Other people who, like me and the other whistleblowers, have been bullied out of their careers and have had low redress, and for their pains have lost their homes, their careers, been vilified and had mental breakdowns. This is exactly what's happened to me, and I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one at Avon and Wiltshire Mental Health Trust, and I'm not the only one. There are thousands of us across the NHS. Why am I doing this video after nearly 20 years when most of you have retired or forgotten all about it? Because justice has no time limits. I and the other whistleblowers have not seen justice. Jacqueline, nor Helen, nor Rahima Marshi, who lost his career, none of us. I'm asking you to listen to this and search your conscience. You might remember the 18th century politician said, "Evil can only exist when the good remain silent." That's all that's necessary. You don't even have to have evil acts such as those committed by Elizabeth Howells, whom I take now to be a sociopath, as she's shown no remorse whatsoever and has incited other people to bully and back her up. Prominent among those who backed her up were Mrs. Barbara Stapleton, who was supposedly my mentor and cluster lead, and also Victoria Barnes, Howell's secretary. They made statements that I wasn't given until over a year, almost 2 years after events, and I proved to HR how contradictory those statements were and highly indicative of collusion. Now, you all know me, but apparently people were asked to take part in the so-called dignity investigations and refused. They thought it wasn't their job's worth. They thought it was nothing to do with them. People like Lizzie and Jonathan, no, it's nothing to do with us, we didn't experience it. But the fact is, there are two sides. There is those who took part in the bullying, as did Barbara and Victoria, and of course Elizabeth Howells, and then there were those who took advantage of the situation, namely Barbara, who was given the manager post and blamed me for not doing well at university when really it was her who was a bad student. I don't really want to get into the details. You can read them all in my publication, which is called Evil Psychologist in a Culture of Denial. Sorry, I'm still hesitant because I'm still suffering PTSD. Evil Psychologist in the Culture of Denial is the text of a long report I sent to the Senior President of Tribunals, to CQC, and finally to NHS Improvement. As a result of this report, I've got several successes, which will mean that victims of bullying at work will have more support as they try to enter tribunal without assistance from a legal team. As I said, I'm not going to go over all the events again. I don't want to relive them. They're very painful. For me, they ended in a nervous breakdown with all the false accusations against me, and finally in a suicide attempt. And I just thank God that at the last minute I had a sudden drive to say, no, I want justice. I want justice for myself. I want justice for the other whistleblowers at Victoria Hospital, and I want justice on behalf of all those victims of NHS bullying. So why now, you might ask? Why has it taken you 18 years? Well, over the years I have come forward with more evidence as it came forward. The evidence has been tampered with. I'll name the people who tamper with that evidence. Dr. Anne Booth, Dr. Bill Jerome, and the major spreader of this vile hearsay, and the person who hid and obstructed and obscured documents was someone called Christopher Stancliffe, who should be thoroughly ashamed of himself. I don't know if all these documents ever did reach the trust board. I doubt it somehow, but as a result I've been vilified, and I've been threatened with court action for speaking out. I've been threatened with defamation, which is really ironic considering that I was bullied into a nervous breakdown by the false allegations. 2 others involved, Anita Korf and Alea Begum, both like Barbara Stapleton, hysterical, not thinking properly. These were supposed to be leaders, remember, when I was a new person coming into the trust, and again making false accusations to Victoria Barnes, who promptly passed them on. And nobody ever questioned this, nobody ever looked for evidence, and when I presented evidence as it appeared, I was ignored. Also Rahima Marshy, the only decent man out of the whole lot, he was the former solicitor to AWP, actually walked out, and then walked out of the legal profession. I salute you, Rahima Marshy, if you've watched this. You're the only decent man in the whole company, and I include the members of the board who for all these years have refused to listen to me. So, the way forward. The way forward now that the senior president of tribunals has actually, through his department, thanked me for my report. Several changes have been made as a result. At the moment, the NHS England and Improvement are investigating Avon and Wiltshire Mental Health Trust, whom, as you might know, have been hiding and disappearing documents and falsifying evidence at investigations, not only in my case, but for many years. Remember, there were 40 social workers who reported this not so long ago to the Health Professionals Council. What I've also done is expose the lacunas which allowed this to happen, not only in Avon and Wiltshire Mental Trust HR itself, but also in PALS, the local PALS, in CQC, and also sad to say at HBC. So I'm afraid the rot sets off a very long way, all the way up. I'm just hoping that NHS England and Improvement will at last give us all justice and be able to prevent this ever happening again. I never want to see anyone suffer as I have suffered for the last 18 years, culminated in the loss of everything I'd worked for over 2 decades in adult mental health. I did actually manage to pass my master's degree at high pass, but was expected to pass it at distinction level, and I'm sure I would have done. I'm not being snobbish about that. I would have passed at high level and then was seeking, ironically, a career in research. So there was absolutely no need for Barbara Stapleton to make all those moves to ensure she got the post with Elizabeth Howells. I never intended to work her in the first place. So all this suffering, not only for me but for all the other staff, for nothing. So how can you help? I hope you're still listening. How can you help? Even now, it's not too late to come forward. I've left the address of NHS Improvement on several social media websites. You can also see it on my own website, which is inspirationworksforyou.co.uk. 4 is the figure 4 and U is the letter U. So that's my website where I've told most of the story, which you can also find in my book. And for anyone else listening who's not part of the trust but is a victim of manager bullying in the NHS, I have written a book which is published and commissioned by Straightforward, and it's called Beating the Bully. That is a self-help manual for anyone who's been a victim of bullying, not only at work but at home, at school and in the community. And I've got a good review for that already. So I've got that on sale at the moment at amazon.co.uk. Okay, plug over. What can you do, my former colleagues? Well, I came to the NHS, to this trust, which is the third trust I'd worked for, hoping to continue my career in adult mental health. Within 6 months it was ruined by Elizabeth Howells when I whistleblew her bullying me. She started bullying me long before all these false accusations came out, which you can read about on the report and are also summarised on my website. Speak out. That's all you had to do. Give your experience honestly and truthfully and with the distance of time. I was the one who was scapegoated. Barbara Stapleton said I was responsible for the black cloud that hung over the department. I was responsible for her not doing very well at university. I was responsible for Anita Korf and Nalaya Begum's fears about their origins. It's absolute nonsense. All you've got to say is your experience of the department, your experience of the stressors, which were never mentioned at all. Agenda for Change was completely missed out in Anne Booth's report, which I might say has actually gone missing suspiciously. All you do is have to, you don't have to, of course you don't have to. I'm saying if you don't, then you're morally reprehensible. You're mental health professionals, and if people like you don't come forward, who will? All you have to do is tell them your experience. What NHS Improvement have to have, like the police, is evidence. They work on hard evidence. It doesn't matter that you had no personal evidence of the incidents. It matters that you were around at the time, you knew of the stresses involved, and also you knew I hadn't done those terrible things I was accused of by Elizabeth Howells, which beg a belief, absolutely beg a belief. Can you come forward, help not only me and the other whistleblowers at AWP, but also those people in the NHS who have gone before and still now are being bullied. People like Helen, who 2 years after I left was also bullied and was told by Elizabeth Howells that she was the lowest of the low but didn't realise it. I did redress that. I wrote to Elizabeth Howells and told her that it wasn't Helen who was the lowest of the low. It was her. I've never had a response in 6 years. I've written to her 6 times. I don't intend to write again. I've also sent her a copy of my book. I think Elizabeth Howells is more to be pitied. I wouldn't have said that years ago. I say it now. I believe she is a sociopath. Her inner sociopath came out during the stress. There is a treatment for that. But what's the treatment for we victims? What do you think about what happened? Do you think it fair and just? If you don't, then please, I urge you, read my book, read the website, examine your conscience, and then contact NHS Improvement and see what you can do to help me redress this situation of manager bullying in the NHS. For those who do, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. For those who don't, I feel sorry for you, because it ought to be in your conscience for the rest of your life. Thank you.